What's going on, guys? CleanSpark just dropped their Bitcoin mining update, so we're going to take a look at that. We also have news that the Coinbase premium to Bitcoin has flipped positive. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And everything I go over will be linked down below for you. If I skip over anything or miss anything, you will be able to read it from the links down below. And starting off with some words from the CEO, Zach Bradford. July was a strong month for Bitcoin and CleanSpark, with Bitcoin reaching new all-time highs above 120,000. Our disciplined accumulation strategy was validated as our treasury grew to over 12,700 self-mined Bitcoin. Importantly, we continued to self-fund our operations through strategic Bitcoin sales, enabling ongoing accumulation while avoiding any use of equity financing or dilution. If you didn't know, CleanSpark hasn't diluted since November of 2024. We are nearly at a year of no dilution at this point. And at the same time, CleanSpark's total contracted power surpassed 1 gigawatt, a significant achievement that reflects the scalability of our infrastructure-first approach. There was a heat wave that curtailed some operations, you could say. While a heat wave in the southeast led to periodic load reductions in response to heightened grid demand across several regions, our flexible power agreements and geographically diversified footprint proved their strategic value. Our ability to support utility partners during periods of peak demand highlights the increasingly important role Bitcoin mining can play in grid stability. This mutually beneficial relationship has enabled us to secure over 1 gigawatt of power across 4 states, and we are well positioned for further expansion. As we continue to grow, our focus remains on delivering durable shareholder value through scale, operational efficiency, and long-term profitability. And if you didn't know, CleanSpark is reporting earnings this week. It is going to be on Thursday, August 7, after the bell. Now, looking over their actual numbers, they produced 671 Bitcoin. This was a decrease over the previous month. Last month, they got 685. Keep in mind, we just got through the hottest month of the year, July. Maybe August can also be pretty hot, but we are approaching near the end of summer, which should help the Bitcoin miners that mine in very hot environments and need to curtail some operations. So I would anticipate seeing CleanSpark mine more than the previous month, starting with August's Bitcoin mining update. As for a peak single day Bitcoin production, 23.98, average daily production, 21.6 Bitcoin mined per day, and they have so far produced 4,639 Bitcoin this year. Their operational hash rate has reached 50 exahash. However, their average operating hash rate, the hash rate they are actually operating at, is 41.9 exahash per second. I would assume this is due to their curtailment efforts, having to turn off some machines to help the grid, which can happen during the hottest months. I do expect to see their average operating hash rate increase in August. As we get into fall and into some colder months, we should see their average operating hash rate closer to their actual hash rate that they are at. As for efficiency, 16.07 joules per terahash. That is amazing. Many Bitcoin miners are still in the 20s. Less is more, less is better. More efficiency means a lower number. And their deployed fleet is 241,000 Bitcoin miners. It feels like yesterday they were at 60,000 Bitcoin miners. Now, as for their Bitcoin holdings, they are holding 12,703 Bitcoin. They sold 575 Bitcoin on the month. Not the total number of Bitcoin that they mined in the month, but a considerable portion. I think they are doing this so that they don't have to dilute, so that they don't have to dilute us shareholders. And I like what I'm seeing. I want to see them continue with that. And if that means selling some Bitcoin that they mine per month, I'm okay with it, especially at this point in the cycle. And in only this month, they made 64,710,000 on their Bitcoin holdings, and that is just the Bitcoin that they sold. Keep in mind, we do have a small gap to the downside. I would personally love to see CleanSpark fill this gap before it goes higher and fills this gap to the upside. At this point, right now, it is holding the 200 MA. We got a little bounce off of it after being rejected from the 50. We are in between the 50 and the 200. Right before earnings. I think it's going to depend on earnings. If we either break over and break to the upside, break that 50 MA and keep running, or break down from the 200 MA and fall. If they end up missing their estimates, we might see a drop. If they exceed their expectations, beat revenue, beat EPS estimates, I expect it to run. And if you've watched any previous videos, you've probably seen me talk about Bitcoin's performance in Q2. Q2 had a fantastic performance for Bitcoin, and I do expect CleanSpark to beat its numbers. Now, I did want to talk about this article mentioning a Coinbase premium, and it has flipped positive. Now, this metric tracks the difference in the Bitcoin price on Coinbase Pro and other exchanges, including Binance. It has now flipped positive, signaling that US demand is coming back. And as said by analysts at TerraHash, there is a bias there. They are a Bitcoin yield protocol company. Bitcoin to trade between 130,000 and 150,000 by year end, assuming continued ETF inflows and a stable macro environment. Much will hinge on the upcoming Federal Reserve decisions, particularly the anticipated rate cut. Traders are expecting an 88% chance of a rate cut in September, and James Butterfield, head of research at CoinShares, believes that the Fed is going to pivot sharply dovish, with a policy shift that favors growth over inflation control, usually by reducing rates for cheaper borrowing. The Fed's on the back foot, overly concerned with transitory inflation issues, and is likely to do a knee-jerk rate cut. It's debatable as to whether this will be September or later, though. And looking at the Fed watch, we are at an 89% chance of a rate cut in September, likely due to the poor job data that we received recently. And going to the end of the year, the market is anticipating 2 to 3 rate cuts as the most likely scenario, a roughly 12% chance of one rate cut, and a not even 1% chance of leaving rates where they are. We are getting rate cuts unless something drastic happens, unless we see inflation just go absolutely out of control, unless we see job data actually get very strong. We are very likely to get rate cuts, and this will help risk on assets like Bitcoin and so on and so forth. And speaking of Bitcoin, it's kind of at a moment of truth. We are testing the 50 MA. If this fails, there is a chance we come down and test the 200 MA. Bitcoin does tend to do this after these big pumps. Like back here in late 2024, we pumped all the way to 108,000. This was the election and all the hype there, just like every cycle. And then what happens? We start retracing. We come down under the 200 MA for a while before we go on our next leg up. And this even happened back here in early 2024 on all that ETF hype. We saw a rally breaking the previous cycle high, and then we came down and tested the 200 MA, failed it, traded under it for a while, and then broke out. Got our golden cross and absolutely skyrocketed. The 200 MA for Bitcoin is right at 100,000 roughly, a test of the psychological 100,000, and a bounce there might be in Bitcoin's cards. It is volatile. Keep this in mind. Over only a matter of 5 months, Bitcoin went from 109,000 down to 74,000 and back to new all-time highs. And we're talking about this happen in like 5 months. Bitcoin is volatile. We could see a breakdown to 100,000 before we end the year strong and hit 150,000. That is still something that Bitcoin can do. A test of the 200 MA may be in order, and it may be a final buying opportunity in this cycle before we finish things off. But what say you guys? Is it too late to consider buying Bitcoin or the Bitcoin miners? Or do you believe the 4-year cycle will forever be changed? Do you think Bitcoin can test the 200 MA before heading higher? Or do you think we continue rallying before breaking under the 200 MA, party comes to an end, and we get into a crypto winter? Always interested in your thoughts and opinions. How are you feeling about CleanSpark's mining update, and how are you feeling about CleanSpark's earnings tomorrow? This is going to be an exciting month for the Bitcoin miners. A lot of earnings are coming out, and I do expect a lot of the Bitcoin miners to post an unrealized gain because of Bitcoin's strong performance. And so far with Bitcoin, even Q3 is looking okay. Despite this pullback, we are higher than we started. Who knows where this quarter ends? It could end higher in price, it could end lower in price. I would like to see Bitcoin actually perform well during the quarter, giving the Bitcoin miners a second consecutive quarter of profitability, which was a major reason why they ran in early 2024. Consistent profitability, and we need to see that. But thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.